Who are you?
Me? Nobody. I just need to talk to my lawyers.
This video will contain spoilers for Better Call Saul through Season 6, Episode 7, and everything else in the Breaking Bad universe. If you're not caught up, this is your chance to leave.
Okay. Let's talk.
Hey guys, Pete here. Today, I wanted to talk about why Lalo showed up at Kim and Jimmy's condo at the end of the mid-season finale, and what he's trying to accomplish. I don't think we can take him at his word that he just wants to talk. His plan and fate may still be a mystery, but I think that there are a lot of clues that we can look at to see how he ended up ending Howard, and what might come next. Plus, that act makes things tricky for these two scammers who will have to come up with something to not follow him to that carpet eventually. One of the things that made Season 5 so exciting was that the lawyer's story and the cartel story finally came together in a way they hadn't before. Jimmy gets picked up by Nacho, who introduces him to Lalo and becomes a friend of the cartel later when Nacho calls him up to defend his new client in court. Jimmy was officially in the game, and when things went off the rails, he couldn't keep Kim away from it. Because they made a pact before they got married to tell each other everything, when her husband went missing, Kim went to visit Mr. Salamanca in jail. So when he showed up at their condo looking for answers, she was essentially in just as deep as Jimmy was. She was able to talk him down to the point he eventually left their apartment. But if you rewatch the scene, this isn't necessarily because he believed the argument she was making. In retrospect, she pointed out that he had other issues to deal with, and in the process of doing that, he made a move to shift focus where he might be able to do something. I don't think he could say for sure that they were lying about the bullet holes in Jimmy's car, but even though something wasn't adding up, it was becoming apparent that it might take more than intimidation to get them to reveal the whole story. He leaves for Mexico, where he finds out Nacho is working against him when his hacienda is attacked, and later realizes that Nacho was the one who introduced him to Saul in the first place. Gus takes precedence since he brought violence into his house and will always be a threat, but I do think he'd always make his way back to Saul now that Nacho is off the board, cockroach or not. As much as seeing that might have made him think of Jimmy, I believe the real revelation he got here was that Mike was inside the laundry waiting for him to show up. Before he tipped his hand by making the call to Hector, he was under the impression that everyone thought he was dead. If you think about the tape he was making for Eladio, his goal is to expose Gus to the cartel and have them decide how to deal with him. His whole journey to Germany is about getting proof, as Hector rightly told him to do. When he sees Mike and recognizes that Fring is expecting him, he has to look for another way to proceed. He is a wanted man who can't move freely. Not entirely anyway. That's gotten more complicated now that Gus is waiting for him, and he knows Saul has some connection to Nacho. He suspects that Jimmy was covering up what happened when he picked up the bail money, and can piece it together that if someone told him to do that, then it's probably related to Gus. With all of that in mind, it makes sense he would go to get the truth from Jimmy. That is what he's there for. As far as killing Howard, that is a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. 607's writer Tom Schnauz shot down the idea that he killed him because he might have overheard what he was saying. And if you think about it, it's really not necessary. We know that Lalo has no aversion to killing, and already have an example in Fred from Travel Wire of him doing that to someone completely innocent that gets in his way. With Howard, there's the added incentive of scaring the hell out of Jimmy and Kim, and making it clear that if they don't tell him what he wants to hear, he won't hesitate to get violent. Imagine a scenario where Jimmy tried to continue the charade. There's no way he would be able to keep it up if Lalo threatened Kim. Plus, with everything else that's going on, there's really no way he could let some random person walk out of their apartment after the way they reacted. That brings us up to speed as far as how we got to where the episode ended. The dead body in their living room has them in a compromised position, and Jimmy doesn't actually know enough to deliver the proof that would satisfy the cartel. He knows about Mike, who saved his life in the desert, and that's basically it. He was under the impression that they moved against Lalo and took him out, and now he understands that that did not go as planned. Kim has also met Mike at this point, but she doesn't know much other than the fact that he saved Jimmy, that he's part of some organization that had people following them, and of course she did know that Lalo was alive but decided not to tell her husband. Knowing all of this, they're going to have to come up with something because there's no reason for Lalo not to kill them after he feels satisfied he's learned everything he could from them. That would be the course of action that would make the most sense if we didn't know Saul survives to make it out of Breaking Bad alive. I'm really curious to see how they make themselves invaluable to him while managing to not end up on the wrong side of Mike and Gus when they come out on top. It's going to take drastic measures from everyone involved that we know survives. Lalo is smart, he's cunning, confident, and fearless. He's borderline supervillainish, and the only potential weak spot we've seen is that he's ultra loyal to his family. All of this could work against the character, but he's got this combination of charm that wins us over, contrasted by this super dark potential, and it all makes it impossible to look away. And he is pitted against Gus Fring and Mike Ehrmantraut. These are not lightweights. I saw a quote from Peter Gould where he mentioned that Gus's biggest mistake with Walter White was that he underestimated him on some level. And by now they've made it abundantly clear that he isn't making the same mistake with Lalo. And of course, Kim and Jimmy have shown themselves to be a formidable duo when they need to be. Although to be fair, they've never been up against stakes like these. This does make it exciting to see how this plays out. Howard's death was tragic, but in a lot of ways, it's not the biggest problem Jimmy and Kim are currently facing. I'm sure that will influence how their stories end, but I imagine there's additional related trauma ahead trying to get out from under Lalo Salamanca. And I think that is a good place to leave things. Let me know in the comments how you think things will play out, and what you're expecting Lalo's next move to be. He's had this interest in Mike since their first encounters back in season 4, and I do expect him to play an important role. Can Lalo even let Kim and Jimmy out of his sight at this point? Everyone at the court knows the story about his death, and I suppose he doesn't know for sure that Jorge de Guzman's cover is blown, but still, I don't see him getting careless since he knows Gus is a worthy adversary. He could let Jimmy go somewhere if he was holding on to Kim. I think it would be clear that he knew that Jimmy wouldn't leave her there, and I guess he could probably do the vice versa. And then wouldn't that set up a crazy situation where she could take off and leave Jimmy holding the bag? Not that I think that that would happen, but boy, would that be devastating. It just occurred to me how crazy and devastating that would be for Jimmy McGill. And well, you can imagine how that might affect him going forward. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.